August 2nd, 2023, at the Hal Turner Radio Show website. Headline: Latest indictment against Trump backfires, gives Trump ability to relitigate entire 2020 election and prove fraud. The deep state and Democrat political thugs, doing their best to stop President Trump from being reelected, may have wrecked their own effort with the third and latest indictment against President Trump. The latest indictment directly involves the January 6th protest at the Capitol, a protest that challenged the legitimacy of the fraud-ridden November 2020 election. As a result of the latest indictment, Trump now has subpoena power for his case. With subpoena power, he can subpoena everything the deep state, Democrats, and their black-robed bimbos on the courts tried to keep off the record and secret. Trump attorney John Lauro made clear that this is precisely what the Trump team intends to do when he remarked, "We now have the ability in this case to issue our subpoenas, and we will relitigate every single issue in the 2020 election." This gives President Trump an opportunity that he has never had before, which is to have subpoena power. For instance, all of California's 55 electors were chosen with ballots that, according to California state election law, cannot be voted or counted in any election because they omitted 2 required notices on all the printed ballots. State election law requires certain notifications appear on each printed ballot, and the law itself states no ballot without the required wording shall be voted or counted in any election. That made all 55 of California's electoral votes void. They could not go to anyone because the election ballots in that state violated state laws. Yet California certified the election anyway and sent electoral votes for Biden to Washington. It's fraud. Now pay attention to those 55 California electoral votes, because here's how CNN reported the final electoral vote tally. See the part in the middle which says 270 to win? Now deduct those 55 California electoral votes from Joe Biden's 306 total, and you get to 251. Thus, with the fraud in California alone, Joe Biden did not have the required 270 votes. He had only 251. He is not the legitimate president. There's plenty more fraud elsewhere, too. In Pennsylvania, 5 of the 7 justices on the Pennsylvania Supreme Court altered election laws by judicial fiat, when the federal Constitution allows only legislators to make such changes. These men are not judges or justices. They're politicians wearing black robes, completely partisan to the actual negation of the law. I think they should have all been jailed. Also in Pennsylvania, there were 202,000 more votes than there are registered voters in the state. In Georgia, in Ware County, Georgia, for instance, forensic investigators tested tabulation gear by feeding an equal number of Trump and Biden ballots through the machines. Again, they fed an equal number. When the tabulation machines reported the totals, they should have reported equal numbers. But they didn't. They reported Biden with a 26% lead. Overt fraud. In Savannah, Georgia, a Microsoft engineer hired to examine the voting system found that a smart thermostat in the tabulation room was communicating wirelessly with the tabulation computer, then sending the data to an IP address located in China. Foreigners were able to manipulate U.S. vote tabulation computers in Georgia. Overt fraud again. Also in Georgia, there are no chain of custody records for 460,000 absentee ballots that were put in drop boxes. No way to trace who picked up which ballots, from which box, when, or how many. So they just dumped tens of thousands of phony ballots into the mix, and those ballots got counted, giving Joe Biden an 11,000 vote win in Georgia. In Wisconsin, 200,000 ballots were invalidated by a judge. The government in that state did not deduct the votes or assign the win to Trump. They instead sent Biden electoral votes to Washington. More fraud. In Arizona. In Maricopa County, Arizona, the state legislature ordered a forensic inspection of Phoenix voting equipment. The Maricopa County supervisors refused to allow it, so the legislature sent a subpoena. The county supervisors refused to comply and sued their own state legislature to prevent a forensic examination. Clearly, it seems they're hiding something. You don't get to do that and have your state's electoral votes counted. Yet, counted they were for Biden. Also, upwards of 96,389 ghost votes were, in fact, cast throughout the state of Arizona, as found by the state's official canvass. A ghost vote is a ballot that was filled out, but the voters do not exist, or the address they claimed as their residence does not exist. The examples above are just the tip of the iceberg of election fraud that took place, which stole the presidency. There are many, many more examples of this blatant fraud. Now, Trump has the federal subpoena power to go after all of it, and it must be entered into the record at a criminal trial because it goes to intent Trump's state of mind. It will show that the intent of the defendant, President Trump, was to stop the fraud and not commit some crime against the country. And when all this evidence gets brought into trial, it establishes reasonable doubt under which Trump must be acquitted. Yes, it looks like the deep state, Democrats, and the cesspool of judges at the state and federal level really stepped in it with this third indictment against Trump.